uncovering all the news from every dark corner of the universe. SliceofSciFi.com.
And welcome to this very special edition of Slice of Sci-Fi, where we're going to be talking about Doctor Who. Yes, the finale just aired for this last season, and we kind of want to talk about it. And that got spurred because 2 weeks ago, you might remember, we talked to a wonderful gal. Her name is Kristen Quintrall. She did this incredible Doctor Who video, and we kind of threw out the idea that maybe we want to talk to her after the finale aired because she doesn't have anybody to talk to. She has no Doctor Who fans to talk to. So we thought we'd do this. So first, I want to introduce on the line, Kristen. How are you doing?
I am great. I'm super excited to be back on talking to some fellow Whovians.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance again to geek out with anybody about it.
Oh, very, very good. Also on the line, we have our news director. You might have heard his name thrown about a little bit as a fellow Doctor Who fan, and he and I have written a couple of Doctor Who columns for Slice of Sci-Fi. We have Michael Hickerson. How you doing, Hicks?
I'm good. How's everybody else this evening?
We're doing pretty good. And lastly, in the studio, okay, yes, everybody, you've heard me talk about this guy. You've heard me talk about the other show I work on. Yes, it is called Fusion Patrol. I have my podcast partner in crime in the studio with me. Say hello, Eugene Glover.
Hello. Thanks.
Very, very good. Okay, so we got a few questions that we kind of want to throw out, and it'll be kind of general, but we'll get a bit more specific and a little deep as we go along. So first one that I want to throw out, and whoever wants to chime in first, by all means, go right ahead. This season was clearly very much two separate entities. We had the first half, which was really about Amy and Rory, and the second half, which was about Clara. So given these two, what could almost be considered two seasons in of themselves, how do you think each one stacked up against the other? Who wants to take that first? Kristen?
I should go.
That's tough. That's really tough. I mean, they were just so different. It's really hard to compare. I really enjoyed Clara a lot. I thought it was just a different dynamic, kind of throwing it back to the sexual tension between Tennant and Rose, and with Amy Pond, he never really had that. So I really enjoyed how she's challenged him this season, and her arc and all the way to this last finale just blew my mind. So I preferred the second half, I gotta say, but I don't know, they're different. They're all different. Every season, every Doctor, everyone's different, but I really like the second half.
Hickerson, you were about to say something.
I don't necessarily think it was two separate seasons because if you remember, Asylum of the Dogs had Clara in it. So she was kind of the unifying link. I mean, I was thinking back what Stephen Moffat said before season 7.1 started, was that stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end, not necessarily in that order. And I think we got Clara's beginning, middle, and end, but not necessarily in that order.
Mm-hmm. Eugene?
Yeah.
I'll go with the first half then. I like the Amy, Rory, and Doctor dynamic better than the Doctor and Clara. I thought they just are a little more of a mature group together, and the three-way made it a little bit more interesting to me.
I personally, I have to agree. If we're just going to simply weigh episodes in of themselves and the quality of them, and that's not to say that my opinion is the only one. I mean, whatever floats anybody's boat is great. But what worked for me clearly was I loved the first half. I thought generally the quality of the stories that had Amy and Rory, they really kind of stood out because I think they were better fleshed out characters to begin with as companions. We've had them for a while now, so there was a really good, strong idea as to how you could write for them, and that might have contributed to making better episodes. Clara was still very much an unknown. She was still this big mystery, and maybe the second half of the season, although they didn't touch on it in every single episode, there was still this big kind of boing, over everybody's heads, as to what kind of character Clara is. So I kind of favored the first half, but again, that's whatever works for you is what this is all about. So, okay, so Kristen, you actually kind of started on this. You mentioned a little bit. What what did you think about Clara as a companion?
I loved her. I thought she was great. I mean, I love most of the companions, but with her, she just really challenged him, and I like, she challenged him like Catherine Tate, challenged Tennant, and I like that. Amy Pond, I don't know, she wasn't necessarily my favorite. I found a lot of flaws with her. I hate to say that. I know a lot of people really liked Amy Pond, but Clara is just, I don't know why I love her. I just really, really, really like her a lot.
Eugene.
I think Clara has been a very nice, perky, adorable companion, but she is still a little bit generic and a little bit different from episode to episode.
Could it be the fact that we have this big, gigantic mystery about who she's been, the impossible girl kind of thing?
I don't think that mystery was terribly mysterious.
No, but do you think that could have inhibited maybe any character development to make her more interesting?
Along the way, I kind of thought that they were doing that they were trying to build the mystery by kind of keeping Clara at distance and making her a little bit different from episode to episode. But after seeing the finale, I'm not convinced that was intentional. I think it was just the writers were a little bit different with her.
Hicks.
I liked her. I think Jenna Louise Coleman was a fantastic addition to the show, and I liked Amy and Rory. I don't think it's a unknown opinion that I liked Rose with Christopher Eccleston, but I got tired of her with Tennant. So I thought Claire was a refreshing change of pace. I guess I'm not as in love with some of the new series companions as other New Who fans have been, but I really like Clara. I like that her storyline seemed to have actually been thought out beforehand, and that Stephen Moffat seemed to follow that and thread it through each of the stories this year.
Well, I heard an interview that the actress who plays Clara, that she had actually never seen the show before. She'd never watched Doctor Who. So even when she was auditioning, she didn't even know what she was auditioning for. But the way that she played off of the character, like, it was all genuine because she didn't know how he was supposed to act. She'd never seen, like, the quirkiness, so all of her, reactions were more, I guess, genuine. But maybe as it went on, she started to anticipate it, like, as an actress, or maybe it wasn't the writing. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I did hear an interview with her shortly after The Bells of St. John premiered, and she went off to say that, when she went into the studio, she was just like rattling off her lines so fast. And of course, Matt Smith talks at 3,000 miles per second as well. And so, there was this big joke that if you were just to leave these two unchecked, that they would probably finish their entire dialogue and there'd still be like 20 minutes worth of episode that needed to be filmed. Because that's just simply how fast they spoke. I mean, I liked her. I loved Clara when we first met her in Asylum of the Daleks, but I think it was because there was just this fascination as to who she is. I didn't quite get so much of that when we saw her in The Snowman, but when we get the proper introduction in The Bells of St. John, I agree. I thought she was challenging. She got into the Doctor's face a bit, which I enjoyed enormously because it was done in a playful sort of, I don't know if I would call it flirtatious, but it was definitely in a playful kind of manner, and it made it kind of fun. But I guess my only disappointment is they didn't carry that through all the way. I mean, maybe in following episodes we got little bits of it here and there where we kind of saw, that's the Clara that I really like, but how come I'm not getting more of her? I thought they could have maybe interspersed that throughout each following episode a little better. But that's my own kind of personal taste on that. But so now, since we're talking about Clara, I want to start with you, Hicks. What did you think about the resolution about how she was the impossible girl?
Well, I had a sneaking suspicion for a long time that she might be Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter.
A lot of people had that.
I thought so, too.
And I have to admit that I was relieved that Stephen Moffat didn't go for that. I thought that would have just been way too obvious and kind of way too 80s Who, like, oh, here, you have to understand every episode of previous Doctor Who for 50 years to get this cool reference. I think that, so I liked it. I didn't roll my eyes at all. I sort of went, I said, okay, I can understand it, and it seems to have been well put into it, and I'll admit that as a Doctor Who geek, I was just rewound and geeked out about the teaser about 5 times with all the various doctors running around Clara. I thought that was a brilliant moment, and for that alone, whatever resolution Stephen Moffat wanted to put out there, I was on board with.
Okay. Kristen, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, from the opening sequence, I had goosebumps. Like when they started showing I actually got really emotional when I saw the first shot, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And they showed all the different doctors. I mean, again, I too had read so many different, conspiracy. Oh, I think she's this. I suspected, and I think I still do suspect that she's connected somehow with River Song. But what I loved is that when they revealed who she was, it was not anything that I had expected. I hadn't expected that storyline, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really great.
Okay.
And it opened up so many other questions. It's like, oh God, so she's there from the beginning. Like, is she like Gallifreyan? Like, is she, you know what I mean? Because she was there in Gallifrey. So, I mean, could she actually be a Time Lord? Is she? I don't know. There's so many. And how she was psychically linked with River Song when she went out, it makes me think that they're still the same person. Because we never saw, I don't remember, and I don't want to, I know, so not PC to say the black chick who regenerated into River Song.
Oh,
Melody.
Melody. And so I think that maybe Clara is even before her, because we haven't seen how he's when he got married first. Yeah,
not yet.
We've only seen. Yeah, so I think that maybe it's still her. I don't know. Maybe that's just wishful thinking.
Okay. Now, I already know what Eugene thinks about this because he and I had a really long discussion about it, but please share your thoughts.
Yes, you just brought me in to be the contrarian, didn't you?
Well, believe me, I'm on your side on this, please.
So I didn't like the resolution in this because if Clara she's either has been throughout the Doctor's history or she hasn't. And I know it's Doctor Who and you can go with, yeah, you can and you can't, but she apparently has. And she was there to defeat the Great Intelligence. How did she do that when she followed him back? Did she take him out in a knife fight in all her 1,000 lives?
Yeah.
I don't quite get how that resolved this problem, or indeed how, apart from the 2 times the Doctor actually saw her, she accomplished anything in any of the time stream that she was through. And that's what bothers me.
I have to agree with that because one of the things that really bothered me, and it's said right in the very beginning, I was there. I was born to save the Doctor. He almost never hears me. And we get all these little montages where she is screaming to the Doctor, trying to get his attention, and it's all to no avail. But except for what would have been Asylum of the Daleks and the Snowman, the only 2 times. And of course on Gallifrey.
And the only times those 2 times are the only 2 times when she doesn't know who the Doctor is.
Yeah.
All the other times, apparently, she does.
That's a good point, too. She knows who the Doctor is, apparently, throughout all these other... I mean, that's the implication. It's the implication on Gallifrey when she sees the William Hartnell Doctor. She says, don't take that TARDIS, take that one. You know, the guidance is a little knackered, but you can have a heck of a lot more fun with it. So, yeah, it's like she knows him, but she had no clue as to who he was in Asylum of the Daleks or in the Snowman. So I had a problem with it, too. And one of the things that and you did touch upon this, Kristen, and Eugene and I also discussed it too. There's this question as to how far did she really get splintered in time, and how many was it? Like just one Clara per regeneration, or was it like in every point of his life? And because it kind of led us to believe that it was throughout his entire timeline, and if that's the case, then wouldn't we see Clara's kind of like bumping into each other left and right all over the place? So that I had a problem with it. I thought it was, I will give Moffat props in that I thought it was a clever way to try to remedy that, but I don't think he really thought it through very well, at least not to my particular satisfaction.
Well, I didn't understand why it was that none of them could see her or hear her. I didn't understand why he did that. It didn't make any sense.
No.
Because the footage they had didn't have her.
Well, that's true. Actually, the footage they had, there's no way that, except for the way they culled the footage for Hartnell. And
right.
Because I'm not even sure, I think that might from, I don't recognize that episode. Hicks,
the Aztecs.
Was it the Aztecs? I should have known that.
Yes.
So the way they were able to use that is fine, but in all the other episodes, they really couldn't cull the footage quite right to make it look like that he was responding to her.
Well, in the episode with when the TARDIS comes to life, she said that she chose him.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right?
we had big issues with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
in this one, it's like Clara tells him to do it, and it's like, well, time out.
And wouldn't you think the TARDIS would actually like Clara if that were the case?
Yes.
And yet,
well, that's why I tied it back to River Song, because River Song just knows the TARDIS and it loves her, and I think that maybe that's why they're connected, and maybe she will. I don't know.
okay, Hicks, you've been curiously quiet. What's your thought on that?
Oh, well, I just had a theory about where the Great Intelligence went, and I'm not sure if anybody caught this, but they did mention the Valyard during the episode.
Oh, yeah.
So what if Clara shoved the Great Intelligence out of the way just long enough, and that led to the creation of the Valyard? Because there is that dark side to the Doctor that we've seen, and the Great Intelligence and that dark side team up to take over for his next generation, so he'll become the Valyard. So she actually created the Doctor's own future by saving his past.
Damn you,
Is
Hicks.
that too fancy for anybody?
That's as good an explanation as anyone's going to come up with
Well,
on
to
the
be
show.
honest, yeah, it's not pretty bad. It's not bad at all, Hicks. I'll give you credit for that one. That's pretty quick. Okay, so since you've touched on that, I'll start with you, Hickerson. This episode ended with something of a surprise. It wasn't a surprise that we were going to see this one particular actor, but the way it was presented to us, I'm sure left a lot of Whovians kind of screaming at their television sets when it occurred. And that was at the very end when John Hurt turned around and we see that little credit introducing John Hurt as the Doctor. Okay, Hickerson, theories?
Yes, and you might need to sit down and take notes on this one, because this one's kind of complicated.
I wouldn't expect any less from you.
Well, okay. I've been thinking about this all week. So the episode was called The Name of the Doctor, and there was so much emphasis placed on that he chose the name The Doctor, and that he was quote-unquote worthy of it. There's never any on-screen evidence that Christopher Eccleston is the Ninth Doctor. I think this is the Ninth Doctor who was unworthy of the name of the Doctor because of what his role in the Time War was, and he's the Doctor's great secret, and he's hiding it from himself and everybody else. He doesn't want anybody to know that he did this. He destroyed all of Gallifrey and the Daleks and all the Time Lords, and that's this person. But they don't call him the Doctor, but he's actually the Ninth Regeneration, and Matt Smith is actually the 12th going into the 13th, which would lead to my other theory about the Valyard.
Okay, very good theory, but Eugene, I want to go to you because when we talked about this, you brought something up that was mentioned in Nightmare in Silver.
They mentioned that the Doctor's brain had been rejigged 10 full times, and they were referring to the actual neurons being regenerated around. So that's just 11 Doctors.
So because you're Hickerson, you're not the only person to think that. A lot of people have been throwing that idea out that he was actually that John Hurt was the real Ninth Doctor, but that would contradict what Mr. Gaiman wrote.
It could, yes, but he could have hidden it so well that the Cybermen didn't even find out.
Yeah, it was a possibility. I'm not going to completely discount that, and given some of the leaps in logic that the show has taken from time to time. Kristen, what was your thoughts when you saw John Hurt be introduced as the Doctor at the end of that episode?
Well, I was confused why they said that at all, because they had just finished talking about how he wasn't considered the Doctor because he wasn't worthy of that name. And then 5 minutes later, they introduced him as the Doctor. My theory, that one actually gave me a lot of different questions. I wasn't confused at all thinking that he was going to be the new regeneration, which I don't know why a lot of people thought that. I think he was definitely, he's the Doctor that they've, I guess, forgotten, but they haven't forgotten him because they talk about, I feel like Eccleston, Tennant, and Matt Smith have taken ownership for, destroying, Gallifrey and all that a long time ago anyways. So I don't know why suddenly now they're acting as though they've never really spoken about it. Obviously he was a variation, I think, a regeneration before Eccleston. There's so many questions around that, how they've introduced him now. I don't know. I guess you could take it a million different ways.
Well, one thing that, Eugene, you brought up a really great theory, which I kind of like, and that is perhaps John Hurt's Doctor. Now, we know that the way the story went out, Matt Smith's Doctor, he was in his own time stream, so theoretically, he should not only see his entire past, but he should see his entire future, even if we as the viewers don't. He should now be fully privy to it. And if that's the case, is it possible that maybe that John Hurt we saw was a future Doctor who had something to maybe do? Because you throw that out.
Yeah, I think that maybe he's a future Doctor, and that because the Time War was such a epic event in the Time Lords, they can bring multiple Time Lords together. Maybe they brought the 8th and the whatever Doctor together to help fight the war, just like they...
Well, they brought the Master back.
They brought the Master back. So maybe they brought more than one Doctor back to fight the Time War, and it was this Doctor that pushed the button.
Yeah,
and
not Paul McGann's.
Right, it's this John Hurt Doctor, and then all the subsequent Doctors are living with that shame.
Yeah, because Paul McGann, he knows it. He was there. He saw it. So now all the later Doctors, Eccleston, Tennant, Smith, they're all fully aware now of what their past/future has done to Gallifrey, and that could be the great shame that Matt Smith was referring to, and the great promise that particular Doctor broke. Thoughts? Anyone?
I like it.
I do too. I think it's pretty.
Sounds good.
I think it sounds pretty good, and it doesn't contradict what happened in Nightmare in Silver, with the idea that it was the Great Controller,
Mr.
Cyber,
Clever.
Mr. Clever, yeah. Oh, don't even get me started on that. Mr. Clever said that it had only been regenerated 10 times up to that point. So
And
no contradiction there.
Plus all the times that we've seen the Doctor's face in the Christmas Cybermen invasion and the Next Doctor.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Also the 11th Hour.
That's true. I mean, I had originally thought that perhaps this was somebody who was like even a predecessor to William Hartnell, and that perhaps he did something so horribly tragic on Gallifrey that it was for that reason that maybe he regenerated into Hartnell and took on the name the Doctor to leave. However, as had been pointed out in Nightmare in Silver, there had been only 10 regenerations, so I had to kind of take that theory and flush it down the toilet. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Any rebuttals? Anyone?
I mean, I guess you could if they want to go with the storyline where there's more regenerations, they could have just been lying, right? Because the Doctor always lies. Maybe he just, maybe he was just saying there's only 10 because they've just been trying to, bury it and not, acknowledge this other one. Because again, I know there's a difference between Doctor and regeneration, but if they're just not considering him a Doctor at all, maybe they're just not including the number.
That was my original thought too. But if Mr. Clever, as he liked to call himself in that episode, if he was actually calling the number of physical times the neurons in the brain had been regenerated, I don't know. I mean, the Doctor's mind is pretty powerful. I don't know if that's something he could actually conceal, even with the help of the TARDIS.
It wouldn't be the first time that they completely ignored something in an episode that had just happened.
I know. I'm just trying not to go down that road again.
But they also, at one point, had completely made everybody forget the Doctor even existed. So who knows? Maybe he's buried it so far deep. I mean, they can always get at it if they want to.
Oh, and that's the one thing that kind of bothers me. I had this this imagery that, and I'm gonna be pretty honest here. I was not exactly enthralled with the way this series ended for this particular year. I felt that Moffat was just physically painting himself into a corner. And when he realized that there was no way for him to get out without stepping all over the paint, he decided to just break down the wall.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm on that. Well, I think we've pretty much exhausted all of the issues that we've got here. I really want to thank you, Hickerson, and I want to thank you, Kristen, both. I can't thank you enough for your contributions to this. I hope you had fun, both of you, in being able to have a little brief deep geeking on Doctor Who.
My wife appreciates it because I stopped playing theories by her.
Now I'm just going to steal all of you guys' theories, and I'm going to use them as my own.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking that. I mean,
they're Creative Commons.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I want to thanks to both Hickerson and Kristen for calling in and sharing their thoughts on this. And I definitely want to thank Eugene.
Thank you
for being here.
It's fun being in a studio.
So I think that's pretty much it. We want to thank all of you for listening. I don't know what this series is going to have in store for Doctor Who later on. We got the Thanksgiving special coming up in just a few months, 6 months, I suppose. So we should be getting our answers then. But in the meantime, if you've got any comments, please feel free to contact us on our website or use the Slice of Sci-Fi app for the iPhone. And if you got any comments on some of the things that we've said here, please share them with us, because we always like to have fuel fanned our fire. It always makes for a fun discussion later on. So for Ben Raggington, this is Slice of Sci-Fi, and saying thank you very much, and we'll be talking to all of you soon.